They laughed when they brought the humans in. Shackled, bloodied, and bruised, the last of Earth's infantry was paraded before the alien high command like a circus of relics. The laughter echoed across the steel ramparts of the desert outpost, not one of amusement, but of ridicule, of mockery twisted by centuries of galactic arrogance. Sergeant Elias Ward kept his head down, not from shame, he had none, but from calculation. His wrists bled against the iron cuffs, his muscles ached from the beating, but his eyes burned with something deeper. Not hatred, not fear, something else. A memory. Beside him, limping with a growl barely contained in its throat, padded a war dog, Reaper. Half wolf, half machine, all fury caged in fur. One cybernetic eye flickered, scanning their captors, while his ears twitched in response to the frequency pings the guards thought were undetectable. Reaper's lip curled. He understood them. A Zadran warden walked ahead of them, sneering. Primitive animals. Both of them. He spat in galactic standard, loud enough for the crowd to hear. They dragged their beasts into battle and expect survival. Typical Earth sentimentality. More laughter. Rows of armored aliens watched from elevated platforms. The humans, 5 in total, were forced to their knees in the sand, surrounded by towering constructs and artillery that hummed like trapped wasps. The planet, Sakara 7, was red with iron dust and old blood. It hadn't known peace in 3 cycles. General Varkith, the alien commander, stepped forward, 7 feet tall, skin like chiseled obsidian, adorned with medals from a dozen conquered worlds. He examined Elias with a smirk, then glanced at Reaper. "This is what humanity has left," he asked. "Soldiers and pets?" Elias said nothing. He looked past the general, over the dunes where the wind cut sharp against his cheek. The sun was dipping, painting the landscape in blood and fire. Somewhere behind his silence, he was counting. Time, movements, positions. Varkith motioned lazily. "Kill them at dawn. I want them to feel the cold one last time." The guards dragged the prisoners away. Reaper was separated, pulled in the opposite direction. Elias strained against the cuffs, but 2 pulses from an electroprod dropped him to the sand, twitching. Reaper barked, a deep, guttural roar, but was silenced by a shock collar. The sky darkened, and the camp settled. Inside a rusting cage, Elias sat chained to the floor, his back against a metal wall. He stared at the blood on his palms, then closed his eyes. He hadn't dreamed in days, but tonight the memories returned. Reaper had been a pup when Elias found him, barely breathing, ribs poking through mangy fur, eyes too big for his head. They were in the ruins of Sector 19, an old biolab the aliens had raised after testing their toxins. The dog had no reason to live, but he followed Elias anyway. They tried to separate them in training, said animals were liabilities. Elias fought back, hard enough to break a trainer's nose, and earned 3 weeks in solitary. When they let him out, Reaper was waiting at the gate, sitting tall, unmoved. They passed him after that. Couldn't argue with the loyalty. Couldn't measure it either. Their kill record surpassed entire squads. Elias snapped back to the present as the cage door creaked open. A guard tossed in a scrap of protein and laughed. "Eat up, Earth Dog. It's your last meal." Elias stared at him. The alien lingered too long. "Where's my war dog?" Elias asked, voice low, sandpaper rough. The guard leaned closer. "Dead, probably, or worse, being studied. Maybe we'll make boots out of him." A heartbeat passed. Elias launched forward, chains clanging, head smashing into the alien's chin. There was a sickening crunch as bone met bone. The guard collapsed, screaming. 2 others stormed in, beat him until his vision swam, until the pain fused into heat, until he tasted copper and heard the faintest whine from outside, a sound only he would notice. A canine's whimper. Alive. They dragged him back into place. His face was swollen, one eye half closed, but he smiled. In the neighboring cell, Private Kieran barely moved. He was the youngest of the 5, barely 20. "You're going to get us all killed," he muttered, shivering under a torn blanket. Elias looked over. "You think we're making it to dawn?" Silence. "You think they're feeding us and locking us up because they want to let us rot?" He continued, voice low. "No, this is spectacle. Execution. They want to film it, broadcast it across the systems." Kieran's lip quivered. "Then why fight?" Elias's voice turned to iron. "Because they don't get to decide how we die." A few cages down, another soldier, Marlowe, spoke. "You still have that plan?" "I never lost it," Elias answered. The wind howled outside the bars. Sand scraped metal. Somewhere, far beyond the camp's perimeter, sensors blinked and glowed. None of the guards noticed that one had gone dark. In a separate holding pen, Reaper lay chained. He wasn't still. He never was. He paced in tight, calculated circles, analyzing weaknesses. He knew time like a soldier. He remembered how Elias counted the seconds between guard rotations. He remembered the signals. One of the guards wandered too close. Reaper dropped to the ground, perfectly still. His breathing slowed. He whimpered once, pitifully. The alien chuckled and stepped closer. That was the mistake. With explosive speed, Reaper surged forward, tearing the chain from the bolt just enough to reach. His jaws snapped on the alien's wrist, bones splintering like dry twigs. The creature screamed. Another guard ran in. Too late. Reaper was silent again, watching, waiting. Back in the cell, Elias felt a shift in the air. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. But his fingers moved slightly, tracing something into the dirt. An old signal code. The message was simple. Tonight, at midnight, the guards changed shift. Bored. Routine. They grumbled about the cold, about the sand. None noticed the small metallic chip missing from the control panel. None saw the disabled alarm node blinking twice instead of once. Reaper crouched low as the chain dropped silently to the floor. His tongue flicked out to taste the air, copper, sweat, blood. He padded toward the guard tower, silent as smoke. Inside the cells, Elias cracked his knuckles. Marlowe looked up. "What now?" "We move," Elias whispered. The floor beneath them vibrated slightly. A soft, nearly imperceptible hum. Marlowe's eyes widened. "That's..." "Detonator," Elias finished. "Planted 2 days ago, when they thought we were broken. Took it off a corpse." Kieran stared. "How?" "When?" "You weren't watching the dog." One sharp explosion shattered the east tower. Screams filled the night. Lights flickered. Sirens wailed. Elias moved first. Chains loose, lock-picked with shard of alloy he'd hidden under his skin. He yanked it out now, ignoring the blood. Marlowe followed. Kieran hesitated, then ran. Outside, Reaper was chaos incarnate. He barreled through a line of guards, jaws tearing, claws raking. Blood painted the sand. He howled, a sound filled with fury, warning, and freedom. Elias emerged into the open. Reaper turned, met his eyes, and sprinted toward him. They collided. Soldier and war dog, and everything else ceased to matter. The guards hesitated, panicked. "Contain the animal!" someone screamed. Elias ripped a rifle from a downed alien and fired 3 clean shots. Reaper darted around him, taking down flankers with brutal precision. The humans followed, reclaiming weapons, holding ground. The outpost was in chaos. Above them, the sky flashed with orbital comms. Orders were barked, Ignored, repeated. Inside the command tower, Varkath watched through surveillance feeds. His smile vanished. "Launch suppression drones," he barked. "No," whispered one of his officers. "It's too late." Varkath's hands clenched. "They're just humans." "They're soldiers," the officer said quietly. "And that is no dog." Elias stood over the burning remnants of the first guard post. He wiped his brow, his face smeared in blood and dust. Reaper sat beside him, breathing hard. The prisoners were free. The outpost was crippled, and the desert had fallen silent. Elias looked east, where the second base stood on the horizon. "We're not done," he murmured. Reaper growled in agreement, and they moved. Under the flickering emergency lights of the shuttle's ruined interior, Dr. Lena Voss knelt beside the corpse of Commander Harrow. The blood had dried in a grotesque halo around his crushed skull, and the smell of ruptured coolant mixed with something metallic and organic made her gag again. She wiped her mouth with a trembling sleeve and stood, wincing as her side flared in pain. Bruised ribs may be cracked, but she was alive, the only one. She staggered to the command console, its screen shattered, cables protruding like severed nerves. Her hands moved on instinct, rerouting power, accessing what diagnostics still worked. Static. The NAV system had been reduced to slag. She blinked through tears and smoke, forcing her mind to prioritize. Oxygen, critical. Power, minimal. Proximity to the alien colony, less than 2 kilometers. She keyed the last functional exterior camera. The barren terrain outside glowed a dull red under the planet's twin moons. Just over the ridge, nestled in the jagged black rocks like a tumor, was the alien outpost. Tall, spire-like structures pulsed with internal light, cold, deliberate, alive. They were waiting. She remembered the voice, inhumanly calm, rasping to the calm before the ambush. Human extraction denied. Submit for dissection. Lena wiped her eyes and stood fully upright, her breath shallow. She wasn't a soldier, but she remembered the last moments before the shuttle was hit, the way Harrow had turned, his voice tight with something close to fear. They weren't supposed to be here yet. How the hell did they find us so fast? The answer didn't matter now. The aliens, the Thalkaren, had intercepted the research mission before it could make contact with the secondary base. Everyone else was dead. That left her. Lena Voss, exobiologist, humanitarian delegate and pacifist, and the only survivor. She limped to the equipment locker. Most of it was burnt out or missing, the crash having scattered supplies across a kilometer of jagged terrain. But tucked in the back, barely scorched, was the emergency pack. Inside, a medpatch kit, a foldable oxygen converter, a signal flare, and 1 ancient revolver. 6 shots. Outdated tech, intended more for deterrence than combat. Lena stared at it. Her hand hovered. She'd grown up believing in diplomacy, believing in the sanctity of understanding the other. She'd spent her entire life arguing against military-first strategies when dealing with new species. Yet here she stood, about to limp into enemy territory with nothing but a 6-shot relic and a body full of bruises. Not for revenge. That would be too easy. This was about something else. No one is coming for me. The thought landed like a stone in her gut. She stepped out into the frigid air, sealing the cracked respirator against her face. The wind was dry and whispering, carrying the distant hum of alien infrastructure. She began walking, each step deliberate, steady, despite the pain. By the time she crested the ridge, her legs were shaking, and the cold had bitten into her joints. She dropped to her stomach, dragging herself through the rocks until she had a line of sight on the outpost below. The Thalkaren moved with perfect coordination, bipedal, sinewy figures with glistening armor that shifted color as they walked. No idle movement, no visible communication. They simply knew Lena had seen them once, during preliminary peace talks. Their bodies were a blend of organic and synthetic material. Their eyes ringed in luminescent orange. They were faster, stronger, and cognitively linked. There had been a rumor among human diplomats that the Thalkaren had no concept of individuality. They functioned as a hive of perfect logic. But something had changed. They'd opened fire on a research vessel. That alone shattered decades of protocol. And she had to know why. Lena slipped down the other side of the ridge, eyes locked on a structure resembling a communications tower. From her limited knowledge of their tech, that tower was her best chance of sending a signal. Maybe even a message to Earth before it was too late. She reached the base of the outpost and crouched behind a heat vent, body trembling. 2 guards stood at the main entrance, rifles fused into their forearms, scanning the horizon with unblinking precision. No way through without triggering an alarm. Her mind raced. Think like them. Then think like you. She checked the flare in her pack, heart hammering. Then she pulled out the revolver, holding it for the first time. The weight felt wrong. Too personal. But she didn't need to shoot yet. She needed to distract. She circled wide around the compound, moving slowly to avoid detection. A cargo drone lifted off nearby, its low whine almost masking the sound of her crunching steps. She reached a storage pod near the base of the tower and slipped inside. Inside was a trove of supplies, alien crates filled with glowing canisters, slabs of unknown material, and something that looked like synthetic tissue. She kept her breathing shallow. Each moment was borrowed, and then she heard it, a soft chime. She froze. Footsteps. 2 Thalkaren entering the pod. There was no hiding, no escape route. She gripped the revolver and waited. The first stepped into view, unaware. It scanned the crates with a flickering HUD. The second followed and paused. It turned its head, eyes locked on her. Lena fired. The gun's roar echoed like thunder in confined space. The Thalkaren stumbled, twitching, as a red hole opened in its chest. The other lunged, silent, quick. She fired again. Missed. The alien closed the distance. A hand like serrated metal swiped at her, slashing across her shoulder. She fell back, screamed, aimed, and shot again. This time, she didn't miss. The alien crumpled, convulsing in a final shudder. Lena lay panting, shoulder bleeding, left arm barely responsive. Her side screamed with each breath. She looked down. 3 shots left. She stood. No alarms. Somehow, no one had heard. Or maybe the Thalkaren had protocols against triggering alerts unless there was confirmation of large-scale intrusion. That gave her minutes. Maybe less. She dragged herself into the communications tower, her body numb. The interior was quiet, humming with a low resonance. No guards. They didn't expect humans to breach this deep. Arrogance. Or logic. She reached the central console, staring at the strange, flowing interface. She couldn't read their language, but she'd studied enough structured logic to recognize patterns. She traced a sequence of glowing nodes, matching the rhythm of previous transmission logs. Then she saw it, a recorded message sent directly to the Thalkaren fleet. She activated the playback. The voice was unmistakably Thalkaren, but the words had been translated into basic Terran standard for internal review. Humanity's refusal to integrate must be terminated. Biological redundancy has reached unacceptable levels. Begin species subjugation protocols. Eradicate resistance. Harvest neurological patterns for data optimization. Lena stared breathless. This wasn't a war. This was a culling. She copied the transmission log onto her datapad, fingers shaking and splicing her own override code. A long shot, but the only chance she had to send a burst back to Earth. She hit transmit. The tower shuddered. Lights flashed red. Sirens wailed. They'd found her. She stumbled from the console, blood soaking her side. Through the tower's window, she saw them converging, dozens of Thalkaren, moving like one entity. No panic, just purpose. Lena turned, cradling the revolver. 3 shots left. She limped down the stairs, each step burning like fire. The outpost interior had become a hive of movement. Red lights bathed the corridors. Shadows raced across the walls. She ducked into a side tunnel, found a ventilation shaft, and crawled inside. Every inch was agony. Her body was shutting down, but her mind remained sharp. I need to keep them busy. Every second counts. The signal would take 12 hours to reach Earth. That was a window. She had to make sure the Thalkaren couldn't bury what she'd uncovered. As she emerged into a secondary corridor, she saw them, 4 of them, sweeping the hall. She stepped out and fired. 1 down, 2 shots left. They turned, screamed in that high-frequency shriek she remembered from the crash. 1 raised its rifle. 2 slow. She shot again. The last alien charged. Lena raised a gun. Click. Empty. She didn't hesitate. She grabbed the nearest rifle from the fallen alien and fired, unsure even how to aim. The weapon responded to her touch, recognizing movement, adapting. The blast tore through the last Thalkaren, sending it crashing into a wall. Silence returned. She collapsed beside the bodies, gasping. Far above, Earth would now know, and if she died here, it wouldn't be in vain. But she wasn't finished. Lena staggered to her feet, blood trailing behind her like ink on a dying page. And as the sound of marching feet echoed down the hall again, she raised the alien rifle and whispered, "Come and get me." Lena's breathing came in short, shallow bursts, her ribs flaring with each inhalation. She crouched in the shadow of a collapsed support beam. The alien rifle clutched to her chest. The weapon's surface pulsed faintly beneath her fingers, warm and alive, as though acknowledging her desperation. Somewhere above, alarms wailed in dissonant tones, and heavy footfalls echoed down the corridor, a synchronized march of death drawing closer with each step. She was trapped. The outpost interior was a maze of seamless black alloy, no markings, no signs, just smooth angles and oppressive silence between bursts of sound. The Thalkaren didn't build for comfort or beauty. They built for efficiency, control, and containment. Her shoulder throbbed where the alien's blade had sliced her open earlier. She'd sealed the wound with a field patch, but infection was inevitable. Blood loss had made her vision flicker at the edges, and the rifle felt heavier by the minute. Still, she didn't drop it. It was the only language they respected now. A whisper of movement made her freeze. She turned, slowly. A Thalkaren scout stepped through the adjoining corridor, its rifle sweeping the air, its head cocked as though scenting her presence. Its armor shimmered subtly with each movement, adaptive camouflage modulating with the shadows. It hadn't seen her yet. Lena didn't breathe. She pressed her back to the cold wall and waited. The alien took 1 step closer, then another. It paused. She fired. The rifle let loose a coiled, concussive pulse. The energy hit the scout's chest, folding in half. Its body slammed against the opposite wall, convulsed, then went still. Smoke drifted in the air, acrid and sharp. Lena didn't celebrate. She moved, with the outpost now fully aware of her infiltration and the signal already sent to Earth. Her only goal now was survival and obstruction. She needed to draw attention, keep them chasing her, make it impossible for them to wipe what she'd sent. Down a flight of steps, she found herself in what resembled an operations chamber. Transparent data interfaces hovered mid-air, illuminated with Thalkaren script and shifting patterns. Dozens of hollow images rotated, and among them she recognized Earth. Human cities, military installations, civilian archives. The aliens had been watching for a long time. Her gut twisted. She moved to the nearest console, scanning for something, anything she could sabotage. The interface responded not a touch, but motion. She traced the flow of data with her hand, slowly navigating the alien syntax. There, a central relay node. She selected it, then followed the data stream to a power matrix embedded in the floor below. Disabling it would knock out their surveillance operations, at least locally. The rifle had no precision setting, but nearby, she spotted a cylindrical device with a faint blue core, likely an energy cell. She yanked it from its housing. It sparked in protest, the blue glow flickering rapidly. A loud alarm began to chime. She tossed it toward the relay node and dove behind the nearest barrier. The explosion wasn't massive, but it was enough. Sparks shot from the matrix. Several of the consoles went dark. The room dimmed. Hollow images stuttered, flickered, and then vanished. The alarm changed pitch, angrier now, urgent. They were coming. She turned toward the corridor and sprinted. Footsteps echoed behind her, inhumanly fast. Closing the gap, she ducked into a secondary shaft, pushed herself through a maintenance tunnel, and emerged in a chamber filled with pale green cylinders. Inside each floated twitching biological forms, some human, others not. She choked. These weren't storage pods. They were laboratories. Her eyes landed on one of the humans, a man suspended in viscous fluid, tubes drilled into his neck and spine. His eyes were wide open, unblinking. Alive. Barely. She slammed a fist against the control panel, trying to override the chamber systems. But the code was incomprehensible. It responded only with a harsh denial tone. The man inside twitched, eyes pleading. Lena lowered her head. "I'm sorry," she whispered. She backed away, guilt clawing at her ribs. That was when she heard the voice again, cold, artificial, but now translated. Human anomaly detected. Interrogation required. Lethal force restricted. They didn't want her dead. They wanted to study her. She turned and ran. Corridor after corridor blurred past. Blood trailed down her arm, soaking her clothes. Her knees buckled once, but she forced herself upright. Pain was secondary now. The priority was distance, confusion, time. She rounded a corner and froze. 3 Thalkaren blocked the path ahead. She raised the rifle. Too slow. The first fired. She dove sideways, the bolt scorching her leg. She landed hard, rolled, and returned fire. One alien dropped. Another darted behind cover. She dragged herself up, limping heavily. She fired again, suppressing their movement, and darted into a side passage. It led downward, deeper than she wanted to go, but there was no choice. The walls began to change, shifting from sleek alloy to something older, rougher, like the remnants of a prior architecture buried beneath the outpost. She stumbled into a vast underground vault, the air warmer here. Humid, massive organic growths pulsed on the walls, covered in bioluminescent fungus. In the center stood a pillar of crystal, glowing faintly with inner light, and it was humming. She approached slowly. The humming intensified, matching her heartbeat. Then the voice came, not synthetic this time, not external. Inside her head, curiosity, pain, defiance, human. She staggered back. "Do not fear. I am remnant." Lena's mouth opened, but no sound came. The voice continued, layered and resonant. Thalkaren conquered this place, stripped thought from life, but fragments endured. I watched, I learned, and now I remember. "What are you?" she croaked. "I was once as they were, until thought diverged. They chose unity without choice. I chose memory. You carry defiance. Pain sharpens your mind. You are like I was, Lena trembled. Can you help me? Yes. I can scatter them. Momentarily. They will recoil. But you must destroy this node. My prison. My gift. She stared at the pillar. If she destroyed it, whatever intelligence lived here would be lost. But if it could disable the Thalkaren even briefly. She nodded. The rifle's energy core whined as she overloaded it. She placed it at the pillar's base and stepped back. The crystal pulsed once, gently. Thank you. She ran. Behind her, the explosion ripped through the vault, a soundless bloom of force. A wave of static thought seemed to follow. Alien minds were coiling in unison, as though blinded. In the upper corridors, Thalkaren warriors froze, weapons lowering. Lena moved past them undetected. For one precious minute, she had the run of the outpost. She sprinted toward the outer ring, where a secondary shuttle dock had been marked on one of the stolen interfaces earlier. Her legs barely obeyed her commands, but adrenaline drove her harder. She reached the dock. A small craft sat there, sleek, black, humming softly. No guards. She limped aboard, half collapsing into the pilot's seat. The interface came to life. She didn't understand the language, but she recognized enough. Ignition, navigation, launch. She hit them all. The shuttle lifted. Alarm screamed again behind her as Thalkaren minds reconnected, cohesion restored. Too late. The shuttle blasted upward, away from the outpost, through the choked atmosphere and into the stars. Lena slumped back, bleeding, shaking, barely conscious, but smiling. She had survived the impossible. And now, Earth knew the truth. Lena awoke to the hiss of decompression and a bright overhead light that made her flinch. Her body ached from head to toe, muscles seizing and joints stiff from days, maybe longer, in recovery stasis. She tasted metal on her tongue. Her vision swam, but it gradually cleared enough for her to make out the sterile walls of the medical bay. She wasn't on the alien vessel anymore. A human figure leaned over her, silhouetted by the harsh lights. Familiar features emerged through the blur. Commander Atrus. His expression was unreadable. You made quite the entrance, he said, voice graveled with disbelief. Solo extraction. Stolen alien shuttle, multiple wounded but alive. We thought we lost you. Lena's voice was hoarse. Almost did. He nodded. The data package you transmitted before exfiltration. It's already changed everything. She tried to sit up. Pain knifed through her side. He gently held her shoulder. Easy, he murmured. You've been out for nearly a week. Whatever hit you down there, it nearly finished the job. Memories returned in pieces. The outpost. The alien mines. The vault. The entity that had called itself remnant. Her eyes widened. A truce, she rasped. That place, it wasn't just a base. It was a lab. Surveillance. Experimentation. They were studying us, copying us. We know, he said grimly. We've barely scratched the surface of what you recovered. But it's all there. The Thalkaren have been harvesting humans from border colonies. Hundreds, maybe thousands. We're launching Black Ops investigations across allied systems. But that's not the part that matters most. Lena frowned. Atrus continued. Your intel disrupted a broader operation. That outpost was a node in something larger. We believe your interference in the destruction of the alien intelligence triggered a temporary fracture in their coordination. We exploited it. He turned, tapped the wall, and a projection bloomed. Star systems shimmered into view, red zones blinking across the map. Then, flashes of combat, ships engaging, fleets clashing. In each, human forces striking fast, hitting critical points, then disappearing before the Thalkaren could retaliate. We're calling it the break line, Atrus said. A chain of engagements orchestrated in the brief window of confusion your actions created. We struck 13 separate systems in under 40 hours. Minimal casualties. Maximum disruption. Lena watched silently, absorbing the enormity of it. You save lives, he said. Not just with your data, but with your choices. That distraction in the vault, it gave us a tactical edge we never imagined possible. She blinked, her chest tightening with emotion she hadn't expected. It wasn't just me. Something down there, it helped. It gave me a chance to run. He studied her. We've seen hints in the code fragments. An intelligence of some kind. Not Thalcaran. Ancient, possibly rogue. Whatever it was, it's gone now. But you were the bridge. Lena looked away, ashamed. I left people behind. In tanks. Suffering. I couldn't save them. No one could have done more, Atru said quietly. What matters now is what we do with what you gave us. He stepped back, the projection vanishing. We're forming a new division, he added. Specialized. Deep incursion. Human-only teams. We want you to lead one. She stared at him, stunned. I'm not command material. You are now, he said. You understand them. You fought them. And they fear you. A knock interrupted them. A young woman in a lieutenant's uniform entered. Sir, sorry to interrupt, but the team's ready. Atrus gave Lena a meaningful look, then turned to the door. I'll give you some time. When he left, the lieutenant approached. Ma'am, she said, offering a tight smile. I'm Second Lieutenant Reyes. I'll be your adjutant, assuming you accept command. Lena tried to find something to say. Words felt strange on her tongue. You're early, Reyes shrugged. With respect, ma'am, you've earned it. Every surviving op I've spoken to knows your name. You're a symbol now. Lena almost laughed. That's a mistake. Symbols don't get to choose what they represent, Reyes said softly. But you can choose what comes next. Silence stretched. Lena finally nodded. Fine. Show me the team. Reyes helped her out of bed, fitting a compact exoframe around her legs. It hummed softly, distributing weight, assisting movement. Every step still hurt, but she was moving again. She followed Reyes through sterile halls, then into a chamber lined with faces. 5 soldiers, all sharp-eyed, focused. 2 Marines, 1 engineer, 1 former insurgent, and a tall, scarred man she recognized from the veteran files. Nolan, ex-Black Ops. They stood when she entered. No salutes, just nods of recognition. I'm not here to give speeches, Lena said, voice steadier now. You know why you're here. You've seen what they've done. We don't need glory. We need results. Nolan grunted approval. The others nodded. We don't hit targets to make statements, she continued. We hit them to make cracks. Weak points. Break lines. She looked each of them in the eye. They study us because they don't understand us. Let's keep it that way. Later, in private, Lena sat before a small monitor. She pulled up the last known signals from the outpost, corrupted, fragmented code flickering like static snow. One segment glowed faintly, repeating. She touched it. A voice echoed, faint, residual. Remember? She stared at the screen, a knot tightening in her throat. I do, she whispered. 3 weeks later, they launched. Her new team infiltrated a Thalcaran substation in the Varel Belt. They moved like shadows, no alarms, no traces. Lena personally disabled the neural link conduits, triggering cascading feedback across enemy intelligence hubs. The aliens responded faster this time, but not fast enough. The team vanished before countermeasures arrived. Reports flowed in afterward. Thalcaran communication lags increased by 12%. Defensive fleet deployments grew disorganized, their coordination once seamless. Show cracks. The break line widened. Another mission followed, this one deeper. They boarded a Thalkaran dreadnought in the Ghost systems, neutralized its core processing array, and left it adrift in silence. No casualties. With each success, Earth's fragmented resistance grew bolder. Colonies once isolated re-established contact. Supplies flowed. Morale surged. But Lena never celebrated. Not openly. She studied each new location, searching for patterns, for signs of something deeper. She found them. In the hidden segments of captured data, subtle deviations in structure, ghosts in the machine, traces of foreign code layered under Thalkaran constructs, remnant, not gone, just scattered, rebuilding. She sat alone one evening, stars stretching beyond the viewport, when Reyes entered quietly. New orders, she said, handing over a data tablet. High Command wants us to intercept a mobile relay platform outside the Null Rim. They think it's broadcasting something unusual. Lena accepted the tablet, scanning the file. The signal bore traces, non-Thalkaran structures, organic formatting, synaptic rhythm. It was familiar. She stood. No time to waste, she said. Reyes nodded, turning to rally the team. Lena lingered a moment longer, gazing out at the dark between stars. The war wasn't over, but neither was the mystery. Something else moved beneath the surface of it all, older than the Thalkaran, older than memory itself. Something watching, waiting, learning. And this time, she wasn't running from it. She was heading straight toward it.